Greetings. I'm Dave Throgmorton, the director of the Carbon County Higher Education Center. Something a little different today, but before I get to that, a shout out to Teresa Schultz. She saw the thing last week about the single dangling bulb that was the police dispatch system in Rawlins. Sent me a note and said, hey, we have one in Sinclair. It's on the Parco building, and she knows where the switch is. Thanks, Teresa. I came by and checked it out, and I've added the photograph to my archive, so I appreciate that. Thank you so much. It's an amazing place, really. Today I'm going to talk about something a little bit different. We're heading into a 79-degree day before the week is out. I don't think we've seen a 79-degree day since probably September, and I, for one, am pretty excited about it. And what I'm going to show you today is a little tour you may want to take to reacquaint yourself with the history of Rawlins. It'll take you about 40 minutes, and I think it'll be well worth your time. Some people are born in this county, and they fall in love with this county because they're born in this county, and that's great, and I love that. And there's other people who move to this county, and they fall in love with this county, and I love that too. Some of them love it just for a while they're here. Some of them love it and they stay here. A number of years ago, Tiffany Wilson came to town to be the director of the new of the Carbon County Museum. Tiffany she fell in love with this community. She adopted the whole tourism thing. She, like everybody else in town, thought it would be a great idea to have Rawlins as sort of a tourist destination. We have a great deal to offer. The history of our county is absolutely phenomenal, and the history of our town is absolutely phenomenal. So Tiffany had the idea that we probably ought to build an interpretive trail linking the northernmost part of our town to the southernmost part of our town, meandering all the way through and touching bases with a lot of historical sites on the way. She had a colleague, a designer, Stacy Fevinger, who was helping her out with trying to create some designs on what an interpretive trail would look like. Tiffany went on, she left to get a PhD in Eastern European history. Last time I talked to Tiffany, she was living in Poland, which is kind of cool. Stacy went on to become actually a quite renowned and accomplished tattoo artist. I sort of wished I'd given her a shot at me while she was still an up-and-comer, but that's just kind of the way it goes. So this idea actually came from them, to give credit where credit was due. When Kelly Bohannon took over the Carbon County Museum, she too thought that this was a very good idea, and she turned this project over to her education director, Lauren Hunley. I'm going to show you some slides here in a moment that have some words on them, a little bit of narrative. Lauren Hunley is responsible for all the narrative. She was a stickler about all that sort of thing. And just to make sure we give credit where credit's due, Karen Webster at the Carbon County Higher Education Center typed up every single application for funding, every single legal document, every single thing that we did passed through Karen's computer. So these are the people that kind of helped create this interpretive trail that I'm going to be talking about here in just a moment. The picture that I'm showing you right now, you probably recognize. This is the gazebo up at the Armory. This picture was taken last week. You remember last week. This picture was taken earlier this week. Oh, Carbon County. Is this not cool? So the interpretive trail can start at the Armory. We'll get back to the Armory before we're done here. And you can see on this particular little map that we have here, I'm trying to figure out how to make this work. You are here and you're winding your way down through town, through the old pen, through the south side, and eventually down to Rawlins Springs. This trail sign you can find up at the Armory. The other end of the trail is here. This is Rawlins Springs. This is where it all began. This is where General Rawlins came and he said what I would give for a cold drink of water. And the spring that he found on this site was where he found that cold drink of water. If you don't know where it is, you probably recognize this, the Union Pacific caboose that is there in the little park on the south side just off of Davis Street. Miss it. It too has a sign. You can see this, and you are here at Rawlins Springs, winding your way through the south side, up through the downtown area, past the old pen, and eventually up to the Armory. We've got you covered so you can start either way. I prefer to start on the south side. The south side starts with a sign, Rawlins Springs. This is where it all began. It tells the story of General Rawlins and Aunt Rawlins, and here you have it. Here's a marker that already exists there. This marker was erected in 1957 by the Union Pacific Railroad and the University of Wyoming to commemorate this spot that is Rawlins Springs. Here's a close-up of the plaque. Probably can't read it. Basically says the Union Pacific Railroad was the key mover and shaker behind making Rawlins happen. That's the only reason that we existed back in 1868. And it says that in 1957 this particular monument was erected. As we wind through the town, we have a series of markers that direct tourists and locals to landmarks that are important in our history. The first one that you're going to come to is this one here. This is the Wayne Martinez mural on the south side. You can't miss it. Here you can see the mural on the left side of your screen. It's beautiful. It's been there for quite some time. On the right side of the screen is the interpretive trail marker that says, this is important. Pay attention to this. This is history. As you get into the downtown area, you find small signs like this one posted all up and down the streets, talking about important landmarks, important businesses, and in fact important people in the history of Rawlins. This particular one talks about Rasmussen Furniture, still one of the most viable, vibrant anchor businesses in downtown Rawlins. Who knew that at one time it used to be a mortuary? Here's one that extols the virtue of the Highway 30 garages, the Lincoln Highway. The Lincoln Highway came right down Cedar Street. There you have it. And the Lincoln Highway was the important link between the East and the West. And a young lieutenant colonel who came through this area and charted Carbon County for the Lincoln Highway eventually went on to become the most important general during the Second World War and became one of our presidents, Dwight David Eisenhower. Passed through here, probably didn't see the garages on Highway 30, but he saw the place where the Lincoln Highway was going to go. Now, a project like this actually involves an awful lot of funding and foundations and organizations. I mentioned some of the people that were involved in the idea of the interpretive trail, but there's a whole bunch of people that made the interpretive trail actually happen, that made it work. The rec board, as you know, Carbon County School District number 1 has a rec board. The rec board has a budget from the school district, and their budget is to try to make our community more livable in every single way that they possibly can. The rec board helped fund this little project. Patty Hayes, as I recall, was the director at the time. Jan Hogue wrote the checks, but they had skin in the game. They thought that this would be an important thing for our community. DDA Main Street was involved in this. Pam Thayer's thumbprint was all over this particular project, particularly as it passed through the downtown area. The Carbon County Tourism Board was really interested in this because they thought, this would be important. If somebody stops here for lunch and they see the interpretive trail, they might walk through our town and see what an important role Rawlins and Carbon County has played in the development of the West and indeed in the development of the United States. This couldn't have happened without the city of Rawlins. There was an awful lot of legal work that had to be done to make this happen. And I've got to tell you, Amy Bach was there every single step of the way, and she did every single bit of the legal work. She held our hands. We were novices. She was not. The Wyoming Office of Tourism was involved in this. They said, yeah, Rawlins is worth investing in. Rawlins is a beautiful place. It's an interesting place. It's an historic place, and we need to invest in that. Obviously, the Carbon County Museum and the Museum Foundation were involved. And then there was this other organization, the Laura Jane Musser Foundation from St. Paul, Minnesota. They were really interested in helping small rural communities find, establish, and advertise their identity. And they also provided a grant to help make this particular little project possible. As you go through the downtown area, eventually you'll end up at the historic Wyoming Frontier Prison, the Old Pen. If you don't walk around the grounds of the Old Pen, you're doing yourself a disservice. It is one of the most amazing, beautiful places in our town. And you need to do it. And the historic or the interpretive trail meanders you all the way up to the Old Pen and then meanders you on up the path from the Old Pen to the end of the trail. As you get to the end, you come to this, the gazebo up at the armory. This is where the trail ends. Now, if you really are the adventuresome type, once you get on this ridge right here, you can walk up over this ridge. 45 minutes later, you're up at Rawlins Peak, and you're going to see a view that is absolutely astonishing. And as you can see, the signs at the gazebo once again illustrate important parts of our county and important parts of our community. So we're in quarantine. Many of you have been home with your kids, been homeschooling your kids. I'm sure that it has been stressful for a lot of you. The weather's changing. We're going to have our first 79-degree day this week. I strongly encourage you to start at one end or the other of this trail, follow the signs, reacquaint yourself with the absolute wonder of Rawlins history. It is an incredible place. The whole tour will take you about 40 minutes. I can guarantee you it's worth every minute of your time. Thanks for watching.